Mark, I think you could have been a preferred walk-on here coming out of high school, and maybe Stanford too. I'm not sure. Why did you go to Southern Oregon? What happened to the pre-med thing, and how did you get the call from Mike to become a GA? It's a big question.
It's going to take a lot of time.
I know.
Everybody sit back and relax. But basically, I decided not to come here because I thought I wouldn't play. Right. I can't remember exactly how the quarterback landscape broke down back then, but Danny O'Neill and Posse were going, and I can't remember exactly what the other part of it was. What was the rest of your? Oh yeah. And then. Yeah, for the longest time, that was my goal, was to be a doctor, and I kind of, through a total weird circumstance, got hurt a couple times in college, and ended up playing, fake football in Europe. That's a bad thing to say, but a great opportunity. And then again, absolute total luck that a job came open here in the summer of '97, which that really never happens in this profession of that position coming open in the summer, and total luck that ended up interviewing for that and getting it, and then hooking up with Coach Pilati and Dirk Cutter and the rest. So luck.
Third row middle, Jordan.
Mark, as you guys looked at your film against Florida State, it's an impressive score, but as you know, as game film goes, you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. What are some areas you're trying to improve on with this team as you get set for Ohio State?
Offensively, communication, had a few communication breakdowns, had a few alignment things. We had a bunch of stuff going into that game. We were trying to do, we had a few kind of things that would be very different for them and hopefully not that different for us, and it turned out it was different for both of us. We had some just alignment deals, communication, both up front and on the perimeter. For us, we missed a couple, we always talk about make layups, just throwing and catching and executing stuff that's there to be made, and then your other normal things. Defensively, from a communication standpoint, was pretty good. Again, had a few misfits, a few times we didn't wrap up, didn't run through tackles, didn't finish things. Again, had a couple penalties. Special teams that if we went through each thing, it would take a while, but there a couple things on every play. I thought our effort, our kickoff coverage team in particular, was excellent, going against an unbelievable returner, and we'll have another challenge this week. But they played at a much higher level, all 11, better than we have to this point. So, yeah, there's always stuff. Absolutely.
Second reaction, Till.
Mark, Dennis kind of asked you about this, and you said it was a lot of random circumstances that got you here, but I was curious if there was someone or something at Southern Oregon that really made you want to get into this profession.
I had a great experience there, obviously playing there, and Coach Olson, Jeff Olson, who's the head coach there. When I got done playing, he became the head coach. Was the first guy to ever hire me, I guess you could say, and certainly, I loved it, being with him and a very good friend of mine who's the athletic director there, and that guy named Matt Sayer. Great, just a great guy, and those guys. I've had a great experience with coaches. My high school coach was a tremendous influence on me, Kent Weigel, and so all those were very positive interactions and relationships, and so it was something that was always an attractive thing. It wasn't necessarily a vocation at that point, but yeah. I don't know if that makes any sense, but.
Right here in the vest.
And Coach, Urban Meyer's had a lot of great things to say about Oregon, how influential the philosophy here has been on his program. Is there anything you can say about what Urban Meyer's done at Ohio State and the philosophy, the program he's developed there?
Yeah, I mean, he won a ton wherever he's been, and not just obviously Ohio State, but go back in the archives of Florida, of Utah, of Bowling Green, wherever he's been, they've been successful, and done it with a lot of different guys, a bunch of different ways. Obviously, have a ton of respect for Coach Herman, who's moving on to becoming a head coach. Their defensive staff is a very veteran group of guys. Not only whether it's Coach Fickle, who's been there for a long time, but the guys that they've either augmented their staff with. Chris Ash has been, a bunch of places have been very, very successful, whether it's Wisconsin or beyond. And so just assembled a great staff. They've always recruited well at Ohio State, and they're definitely even ramping that up to another level.
Back left.
Coach, I find it hard to believe Urban Meyer didn't know the score of your game all those hours after it had ended. Do you allow?
You don't think he was selling that at all? Is that what you're trying to say?
My question, do you allow for a little underdog reverse psychology here? And also, the second part of that is how do you draw the line between confidence and focus?
How do we draw the line between confidence and focus?
Make sure you're not overconfident.
Well, that won't be a problem. I think you draw that from your preparation, and again, I'm a big believer in today, and our first couple days, first 3-4 days of our preparation is what is the foundation for a great, confident, fast, free, confident game day. And so if we're ever doing any, rah-rahs and get-readies and all that stuff, that's today, tomorrow, the next day. And our guys have been awesome as far as how they've worked. And as for the other part about that, yeah, I mean, there's always gamesmanship, and apparently that we're not the greatest team ever in the history of the world and all that other stuff that goes on.
Aaron, third row.
Coach, you've talked a little bit about Urban, but there was a report, I think, right around the end of the Rose Bowl saying that you and Urban talk almost weekly. Is that true?
That is not true.
Okay. Then I'll scratch that question and just want to ask you about the uniforms. Then do you care at all that there's no trace of green and yellow in the uniforms?
Okay, I'm going to have to take the fifth on this. I haven't seen him yet. I've been yelled at, but I haven't seen him yet.
Royce Freeman says they're icy, but there's no trace of green and gold. Is that right at all?
I love Royce, so I'll go with icy as well.
Thank you.
That would be my same description.
Back left, Sam.
Hi, Coach. I'm just wondering how you prepare for a national championship game against a quarterback with such small amount of film. I mean, you obviously aren't able to see much on him, even though you have a good amount of time to prepare.
Yeah, he's done a great job, and they've obviously done a great job with him. And whether it's J.T. Barrett or him filling in, have been phenomenal. And you have to kind of go just with what you kind of almost what you would do with this guy in these situations. And he's an unbelievably accurate deep ball thrower, and they do so much in the run game to create confusion or get eyes in the backfield or get safety reaction, and then one-on-one on the outside, and he throws it into a spot where whoever it is, the receivers, these guys go up and make play after play after play in one-on-one situations, or a 50-50 ball is now the new in vogue, deal. And they're about 70-30 on 50-50 balls. So that's not good percentages. But really, I mean, physical guy, has done, a bunch of stuff well in the passing game, and then is just a very physical, tough guy to just bring down. He looks like he's, I don't know what he weighs, 250, 255, whatever he is. And, it's kind of a combination of the last, whether it's Terrell Pryor or Cam Newton, some of these guys that we've played in these games over the last several years, a combination of that.
Tyson in the middle, back, kind of.
Right. You guys got guys like Royce and Charles and Tyrell, like freshmen that have immediately come and made an impact on this program. And do you get a sense that they realize how hard it is to get to a national championship game? I mean, it's just their first year and they've had so much success. And I bet you there's there's some seniors who were redshirts during that 2010 season who maybe thought it wouldn't be a whole another 4 years until they kind of get back to this game.
Yeah, I think probably not to a certain extent, but just just as those guys when they were freshmen, we talked to those guys about earning it every single day and working. That'll be a little bit easier to reinforce of a team. A guy that maybe is a redshirt junior that it hasn't been BCS result, because it's hard. Every single day is hard, let alone, you look at, again, Florida State winning 29 games in a row. That's amazing. And what our guys have been able to accomplish over the last decade has been amazing. And that's where we just try to distill it down to handling our business right now. And some of those guys might not know that we're in the national championship, so don't tell them that. We just think it's another day.
Left on the back here.
We have Carlos from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram.
There we go.
Hey, Coach. What do you think of the way Royce's personality has allowed him to take over this to accept this leading role as the rusher for you guys?
Well, he's got a great personality to be great at anything. Whatever, whether he was a congressman or a tailback or a business owner or whatever it is, he just shows up, has a smile on his face, asks a great question, and goes to work. He doesn't. When you're one-on-one with him and you talk to him, he's phenomenal. But he is a pretty calm character of just, he just goes out and goes to work. But just another great guy, another example of a great guy on our team that he just doesn't say very much and works his tail off, always has a smile on his face, and just fun to be around.
Ryan Thorburn?
Mark, preparing for a game and playing it January 12th, how do you think that helps you guys or gives you a bump in recruiting, and what do you do logistically to make up for that extra time?
Logistically, as far as
playing another week or two later.
Yeah. It's weird in some sense. It's obviously not just another game, but it is sort of just another week of fall. We're in school, they're not, and so that's a little bit of a nuance to it. But we've had a plan for this and built a plan for this last summer, and our guys have done a phenomenal job of executing kind of our long-term plan. And so logistically, the time of day and how we're practicing and all that stuff is the same. Obviously, what we're doing during those times is, it's going to be different from when you start week 1 to week 26 or whatever it is right now.
Dave Williford?
Operator, we're now going to go and take some questions if there are any from those who are on the phone line. So I believe the instruction. Go ahead, operator.
Certainly. At this time, if you would like to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. And your first question comes from the line of Tim May.
Yes, thank you very much. Hey, Coach, Urban Meyer's made no secret of the fact that during his, what I'm calling now his one-year sabbatical, 2011, he was quite enamored or intrigued with y'all's offense and spent some time out there with Coach Kelly and I guess with you. But do you remember spending much time with him and how many questions he asked, et cetera, and how much you see in what they do now and sort of what you guys do?
Yeah, the last part of that I'll answer first. It's always different, I think we're a lot more different than we are similar and I think that's personnel driven. Their strengths are different than our strengths. But similar. I mean, there's definitely some similarities to it. And then on the first part, I think he and Chip had, a lot more of a relationship. He was around for several practices. I think that was the national championship year, or was it the Fiesta Bowl? Fiesta Bowl? I don't know. Somewhere in Arizona, we were out there, and he was around, and I don't remember the level of involvement. He wasn't in he wasn't in meetings or anything like that, but he was around.
Yeah, but he's intrigued by y'all's up tempo, and I would think you haven't heard that. You've heard that from a lot of people and stuff. But do you see? You were talking about that a little bit earlier, but do you see other teams really sort of picking up on that too? I mean, the more you get into this modern college football era.
Yeah, I think, and again, we steal from people, they steal from us, everybody steals from everybody. It's kind of just how it works. But they've certainly put their stamp on it and their style of whether it's Coach Meyer's background or Coach Herman's background or somebody else on their offensive staff. Again, there's some similarities, but they're really good, and we'll try to stop them.
If we can limit it to one question to give a chance for more people to ask questions, and also please identify yourself and affiliation.
Scared him off.
Your next question comes.
Go ahead, operator.
Your next question comes from the line of Greg Couch with BleacherReport.com.
Hi, you guys. After you lost to Arizona, you had a little early season. It seemed from the outside anyway, some issues with your offensive line. Was there any slump is too strong of a word, but was there any sort of difficult time that you felt the team was going through, and how did you feel you had to work through that?
There's always stuff, whether you win whatever our score was last or you lose to Arizona. You're always, we believe very much in what we're doing. Our guys believe very much in what we're doing and how we're doing it. And there's always just kind of a, from the media's perspective or the fans' perspective, it's second guessing. In our world, that's evaluation. And you go back and you evaluate why something happened and you fix it. And our guys set about that, coaches, players, again, in lockstep to be on the same page and fix it.
Any more questions, operator? Okay, with that, we're going to go back to questions here in the room.
Right up here. Right up here.
Growing up in the state of Oregon and having a sense of the history, I mean, you got the Trailblazers, and this would be right up there. Have you given much thought to that? Do you take that responsibility, and what are your thoughts on that? I mean, you guys could be one of the biggest stories ever in the state of Oregon, if you're not already, but if you win the national championship.
I haven't on the middle part of that, but no, it's definitely. It's huge for the state, huge obviously for our university community, everybody involved with it. And the best thing we can do is stay focused on our, kind of our process and our mission. But, being a part of this has been a ton of fun for the last several years. And we know what it means to the various constituencies around us. And, unfortunately, that doesn't mean much to Ohio State.
On the right, Andrew.
A lot of the players talked about how this feels like a regular road game, no excursions, no beef bowls this time around. Does this feel like it helps you as a coach prepare these guys, kind of not leaving that far before a bowl game, or do you like being at a bowl site and being able to sequester your guys and kind of having that kind of control?
Both, yeah. I think they did. That was some of the talk when leading up to this college football playoff era, is what what was going to be the kind of the emphasis, and they kept the bowl experience, all the great things about going to a bowl game there, as part of the semifinal round. And then this is a little bit more of a business trip, go in and go out. But we'll have we've got a plan for how we're going to utilize that time. There's a couple things that are minor parts of it, which are more like meals at the hotel or things at the hotel rather than excursions. And so I think it's a really good balance of still maintaining the all the good things, the once in a lifetime things of a bowl game with the semifinals, and now this is, like you said, all business.
Time for one, maybe two more. Marcus is coming up right here in the front dinner.
Mark, how do you define good defense? Because one of the numbers you guys have is not very good, 86th in total yards, but you're top 10 in takeaways. What kind of job has Don done, and how do you define, good defense?
Wins and losses, and again, I don't care how many yards offense we have. I don't care how many yards we give up on defense. Takeaways and points. Those are definitely two things that are huge. But yeah, it's just like we're sitting in the middle of that game and getting guys out, and I don't care if we would have won that game 59-58. If we get out with the healthy and ready to go for the next one, and again, it's about we and us and our. Keenan Lowe, did Keenan Lowe have a catch in the Rose Bowl? No. Keenan Lowe dominated that football game in a lot of ways and didn't ever touch the ball. And those kind of things that don't show up in a stat line or sometimes do, but then we get a fourth down stop on the 6 inches from the goal line. That's pivotal. They can drive 99.5 yards, but if they don't score, they can't win. And so just all those things go together. And, we have to score when we create turnovers, and all that stuff has to be complementary.
Last question, Gary Horowitz.
Fittingly, we'll talk about one of your most humble players, if you could. On Tony Washington, one of those signature plays in the Rose Bowl, he doesn't really like to talk about himself, but if you could just say a few words about what he's meant to the program throughout his career, and especially this season.
Yeah, I think, you look at Tony, just of you know, again, a great, you know, electric smile, great guy to be around, excellent teammate, and then has the, you know, the Arizona experiment penalty and all that stuff. Couldn't be more unlike his personality and everything he does on a day-to-day basis, and all he's done since then is lead, and you know, and like I said right after that game, we believe in that guy 100%. And it was very fitting for that to happen in the Rose Bowl and kind of, you know, get the little lucky bounce instead of getting the, you know, the 15-yard bow penalty. He certainly flipped the game. You know, that was a huge play in the game.
We're going to go one more. Jerry.
Yes, Coach Aronis, in the little he's had time to look at Ohio State, said it was the best defense he's seen all year, even though they're pretty simple in what they do. So do you kind of agree with that this is going to be the best defense you've faced? Conversely, is this going to be the best offense that you've faced?
I haven't watched enough offense. They're different. I always watch a bunch of defense and a bunch of special teams first, and then I fake the answers about the offensive guys. But they're really good defensively in a completely different way of Florida State. They're very sound. They run very well. They tackle really well. They don't take nearly as many chances as Florida State does. And then they, you know, like any team, when they get you in third down, that's where they kind of impose their will, and so we need to stay out of those third and extra long type of situations. Even more important in this game than some others. But yeah, whether it's, you know, Bosa is a phenomenal player. All their linebackers run well. They cover well. They're kind of a cross between, you know, in this conference, kind of a Stanford-ish, but then Michigan State, they've got a bunch of pressures similar to Michigan State, and then, you know, just a bunch of guys that can run and tackle. So I think it's you know, they've got some variation up front a little bit more than some of these other teams, or the ability to be in multiple fronts, and so there'll be some adjustment as far as what, you know, trying to figure out what they're doing.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks.